Hello, everybody. Welcome to Spark Live here on a beautiful Thursday, June 10th. At least I hope it's June 10th. I've been saying it all day. So hopefully it still is the same date. And I am going to play a little something as we wait for people to come on board. And we're going to talk about turning lemons into lemonade today. All right, everyone. My name is Taylor Hill, and this is my business partner, Carter Harkins.
Hey, everyone.
So, Carter, this is an interesting topic today, how to turn lemon into lemonade.
Yeah, and it's not a recipe show. Nobody worry. We're not suddenly like the Carter and Taylor cooking hour or anything like that. It's a marketing discussion. No question about it.
So it really is about de-escalating those pesky little clients and customers that we have. And you know, here's the thing. We have all had customers that have really been angry from time to time. And hey, Derek, glad to see you back. You like that fancy intro. That is Jonathan Sanders. He did that for us. So give a shout out to Jonathan. If you guys work with Jonathan or know him, just give him a thumbs up in the comments. That would be great. He is actually monitoring this, and he will see you and know that you like what he's doing around here. So that's awesome. Anyway, so it really is. We all have pissed off customers. Well, let's just face it. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but you know, most of you guys, that's what y'all say to me. So they're just mad. They're angry. And here's the thing, I've been an angry customer too. I mean, I've been ticked off at people that don't meet my expectations. And so we really want to talk about, how in the world do you take somebody that is really angry and de-escalate them to where you can now have a meaningful conversation and come to a solution or a resolution?
So this used to just be an internal operations problem. When a customer was unhappy, somebody told the boss, and the boss made a phone call and maybe drove out to the job site to see what's going on, talk to the technicians, some back and forth. Eventually you figure out what's got to be done, or if you feel like doing anything. But if you didn't feel like doing anything, then you just knew you had a pissed off customer, and oh well, there's plenty more customers. But these days, any pissed off customer is a marketing problem. Right? Yes. Because what do pissed off customers do first? They go find the Google review or the Facebook review or Yelp or whatever, and they talk about it. And they have no problem at all letting their fingers do the talking. And that becomes a marketing problem, because now a negative review, a pissed off customer leaves a negative review, and that becomes what everybody else comes along to see. Hey, Chuck, how you doing? If you're coming in, just drop a note. Let us know that you're in here. We'll say hi, and that lets us know kind of who we're talking to. So,
yeah, I think the other thing about that, and this is one of the things that I've said in the past, that we, especially if you've been in business over 15 years before the internet kind of took over, one of the things that would happen is if you, served a customer and didn't do a really great job, I mean, you would kind of try to figure it out and make it right. But it was easy to pick up and go to the next neighborhood, because the neighbors right around that may talk, but let's face it, you could go, a mile or two down the road, and chances are you could pick up work. And as long as you serve that neighborhood well, you get some referrals and that kind of thing happened. But when reviews happen, you just can't do that. I mean, the neighbors, the neighborhood, the entire town, and region, area in the world now see all the reviews and see and can tell, are you who you say you are online?
That's right.
And so you got to match who you say you are with, what you actually deliver. Which brings me to another point. A lot of the problems that I've seen with mad, angry customers, it really is that you're setting expectations that aren't met. And I don't care what anybody says. It doesn't matter. Everyone on this particular show and everybody that listens to this anytime that you hire somebody to do something for you, you have an expectation. They're either going to meet your expectation, exceed your expectation, or your expectations are not going to be met. That's the three options. So we're going to talk about if the expectation didn't get met, what you need to do for the customer, but I also want to revisit what you may need to do on your process to set better expectations. We're going to do that at the end. So Cart, tell us a little bit about really about happy customers and unhappy customers and just the cost of all of it.
Right. So the internet changed everything. It's like it's the cost. I guess think about it like a benign tumor versus metastatic cancer, right? Like, back in the day, an unhappy customer was just a one-off event that could be dealt with, and it may cost you something to treat it, but it's just not that big a deal these days because of the internet. One bad review can cost you tens, hundreds of thousands of. We've seen businesses literally blow up because one bad review, not just the bad review, but also the way that a business owner handled the situation. And that's what we're really talking about, is how to turn lemons into lemonade. There is a way to handle an unhappy customer to turn them into a happy customer. And we're going to talk about some of those strategies today, things that work. These are basic communication strategies, but they're all done with the idea that we need to turn this person around for the sake of our marketing image and our brand, to preserve our standing in the community and make sure that nobody is able to tarnish our brand. So there's certain things here that are handled in certain ways in order to make sure that it doesn't become metastatic cancer that's just gonna take over and kill someone, right? So
exactly. Well, and let's talk a little bit about the first two. I'm gonna cover that. The first thing is,
you have things you're supposed to be putting on the screen or something for that? Or?
Oh, probably, because I'm just sitting here just kind of into it, because there's the first one. Every decent business owner cares about having happy customers, but the true test is when you have an unhappy one. Then we're going to talk. These are the things we're talking about now. These are the steps to turn it around. Yeah, that's what happens when you give me the reins. I get into the subject matter and totally forget I have another job.
You've got a lot of distractions at your place today, so I just wanted to make sure that we were both on the same page.
Yeah, just as a little explainer, we're having some renovation done at our house, and literally 5 minutes before I went on, this back wall was reverberating so loud that we couldn't hear one of us. So I had to leave real quick and go tell him to quiet down give me 30 minutes. Anyway,
tapping with a hammer.
Tap. Yeah, if you hear some tapping on the back, that's what it is. The first thing is you want to try to take it offline. And, the reason that I like to take things offline is really simple. You can say and have conversation and emails and those kind of things without making it public, because sometimes, especially if you're writing, people don't glean your emotions behind it, and so they may read into it something that you didn't intend. I really like to get people on the phone because I'm personally much better with verbal communication, and I can sense over a phone somebody's being really unhappy and what they're unhappy about, and try to work that out to where we come to a really good resolution or solution to something. And the second thing, I think.
Well, hold on, before you get
sure.
I just wanted to say about that. Taking it offline doesn't just mean ignoring what somebody said online and just picking up the phone to call that customer. You have to acknowledge it first online, and because every review that sits out there, every negative comment about your business that sits out there that's not answered by you is going to cost you in opportunities, and that means revenue. So first acknowledge it. Say, I'm so sorry that you've had this experience, and I'd definitely like to talk to you to get to the bottom of what might have happened. So I'll be calling you shortly, and just leave it there, right? So you've acknowledged, for everybody else that comes after, that sees that the owner has paid attention, heard the complaint, apologized for anything that might have gone wrong, and now is taking it offline. That way, everybody else has an expectation that this hasn't just been left there unresolved for years with nobody paying attention to it.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I totally just went right over that. But there's another thing that happens is sometimes we don't even know who the people are. It could be somebody's wife, girlfriend, and it may not be the customer that you have on file.
Or a lot of times it's like somebody that's mad at a different company.
Yeah.
Got the name of that company, and so they clicked on the wrong review link, and now they're blaming somebody else for someone else's problem.
So if that happens and you can't locate the customer, be really honest with them. Say, hey, I don't have records that you're the customer, but you may be related. It may be somebody else, but please, here's my phone number. Here's my name. Please call me. I'm the owner of the business. I want to get this resolved with you. So I think that's another thing to make sure that you know.
That's good.
And when whether it's the first touch, whether it is when they actually leave the review and when you get on the phone with them, if you're able to do that, or write emails to them, you've got to listen. Number one issue, and guys, I am right there with everybody else. I am trying to solve the problem, resolve the problem, think through it. What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? Who missed on my team? Did somebody miss on my team? Was it us? Was it them? Was it that? I mean, you've got all this stuff going through, so you got to quiet all that stuff. You just have to zen, kind of, and bring all that down to where you can really hear what the customer is saying. And what I like to do is make sure that I parrot back what I'm hearing so that I can say, okay, Mr. Customer, Mrs. Customer, what I'm hearing from you is this is what happened. Is this correct? And just kind of repeat back what they've said to you. Because I've also had some situations where when I've repeated it back, they're like, no. That's not it. Let me explain it again. Okay. Listening again, because we want to make sure that we get the information, because we can't solve anything if we don't listen and just take in their information. I'm not saying listening and taking it in means they're right. Okay. I'm not saying that they're not the ones, looking at it wrong or making a mistake. You don't know. But I am saying, if you go into a situation thinking that you have nothing to learn from this, it's not going to get resolved.
And oftentimes the thing that a customer complains about may not even really be the problem underneath it all, right? I mean, I don't know how many times, my wife and I might get into it about something, and only to find out later that the whole reason she was upset with me was something else about the laundry or whatever, right? That wasn't related to the fight we just had. So, it's very common that when we listen, we allow that person to finally get to the real root issue, the real root cause of what's going on. So it's important to listen to your customer and find out that the reason they're nitpicking every little thing was because of one comment the tech made when he showed up on the scene that showed his insensitivity to an issue the customer was having. Didn't feel heard. He didn't feel like the technician was going to pay attention to what the real problem was. And so he was riding herd on the entire job and complaining about everything, right? You never would have known that. You may have been fixing problems that really weren't problems because you didn't hear what the real issue was and deal, more importantly, with the real issue, the technician who, needs some better training for when he shows up on a job site.
And I'll just tell you, I had an incident yesterday evening with my wife that I just made a comment. I didn't think it was a big deal. It ended up being a big deal, and so if we hadn't had that conversation, man, lesson learned. And it was my fault, took responsibility for it, and we moved on. But we all have times when we just make an offhanded comment or don't think through what we're saying, how that's going to affect somebody else. And so it's real important to do that. And that comes in with empathy.
It does, which is what Jerry just said. Yeah, goes right along with empathy, which is the next point, Jerry. So after you've heard them, it pays to be able to come alongside them, right? Empathy basically just means walking a mile in someone else's shoes, right? They're inviting you to come around and see their perspective, sit on the same side of the table as they're on, and enjoy the view from their perspective. So you're able to do that by letting them know that you've heard them, repeating back to them that this is what I'm hearing you say, and then acknowledging it, right? I can understand how frustrating that's got to feel, right? And I can absolutely see why you're upset, right? That's empathy. That's letting them know that you understand, and you may not agree, but you can at least see the perspective that they have a cause, right? You're recognizing that they have a cause, and that started this whole thing off, and now you can start working toward figuring out what can be done to undo, to start. Now you know how many lemons you're working with. Now you know how much lemonade you need to make.
Hey, and Mike, glad to see you're here. It says once a customer trusts you as a business, and therefore they keep coming back. You do whatever it takes to listen to them, ask for feedback, because you empower the customer and they will be happy. Yeah, and part of empowering customers is asking really the right questions. Sometimes we do not know exactly what's going on, and so it really is important that we not just ask general questions, but ask really the right questions, because only when we get the information that we need can we kind of parse through and make sure that we can come up with a solution that's going to fit everybody. I mean, that's really what you want. You want a solution or resolution that everybody can win. And I think that's the other thing we have to look at is win-win scenarios. One of the things that just recently I read an article. Shep Hyken is a really good guy on customer relations. And one of this article said, if you're in customer service, which this is exactly what this is, this customer service, which touches on marketing. If you're in customer service, sometimes you're a teacher, sometimes you're a parent, sometimes you're a negotiator, sometimes you're a mediator. You have to decide which hat you need to put on in order to resolve the situation. And so the only way I know to do that is through really good questions.
Yeah, questions kind of loops right back to listening, right? Mm-hmm. I get frustrated with people who ask me a question and then don't listen to my answer. Mm-hmm. So, that can make me as frustrated as not being asked good questions or not caring much about, even finding out what's really going on. So when you ask a question, make sure that you go back and you stop and you do what we just talked about as far as listening, and then empathizing where you need to. So it's kind of cyclical, but you're working through to find what is the real problem here so that we can begin to address it.
Yeah, and I think that's great. Now, what do? You got all the information, you've asked the questions, you're sitting there in the discussion. So now what, Carter?
So now you solve the problem, right? And this can be a lot of questions too. Asking the homeowner, I understand it looks like this was not done the way that you would have liked. If it was just done wrong, guys, just fix it. If you did it wrong, fix the problem, right? It's on you to get it done right. If it's one of those things where it's a gray area, like we did it according to codes, but you're not happy about how it was done, you thought it was going to look different, you had a different expectation at the end of this, then that goes into a subjective area where you've got to work with that customer to figure out, what can we do? Like, what would be a win here for you? What would make you happier with the result? Is there something we could do here to adjust the outcome so that, it gets it closer to what you were really thinking? That can be offering possible solutions, but it can also just be listening to them. They may tell you that they'd be happy with one solution that costs you, $1,000 less than the one you had in mind, right? So listening to what it is that would make them happy is a crucial part of this whole thing, because fixing the wrong problem, right? They may have an idea about what the problem is and what the solution would be to make them happy. So it pays to listen.
Yes, and do not miss the final point. always ask the customer, once it's fixed, once you've gone back, done the work, resolved the issue if at all possible. And I think 95% of all issues are resolvable if you go at it the right way. But once that's done, don't forget to go back to the customer and ask them to edit or resubmit another review. They can do that at the bottom of their review and let people know that you got on the phone, you resolved the issue with them, and you came out and fixed it to their satisfaction. And hopefully you fix it and not only meet their expectations, but beat their expectations. And I just find that most people will go back and do that. Very, very seldom do we hear that somebody did not go and modify the review, or at least put an extension to the review.
And there's a reason for that. I mean, as human beings, we're our egos are important to us, and the way that we're viewed by other people is important to us. And if we've said something that turned out to be unfair, we don't want to be looked at as unfair. We could care less whether or not other people, whether what we said was truly fair or not. We just don't want to be judged as being unfair. So when we fix a problem, identify the problem, listen, figure out what it is, go through this whole process, and then provide a solution that has now rectified that problem, by asking them to go and change that review, you usually don't get any pushback at that point. People don't want to be, viewed as being unfair. And if you now have, done what's needed to be done, they're not going to offer much resistance at all to go in there and tone it down a notch or correct the story so that it's now truthful about what really happened.
Yeah, and I like what you put in there, Jerry. Ownership of the problem. That really is the bottom. All these are taking ownership. I mean, if you don't take ownership of the problem and ownership of your work, then there is no resolution that's going to happen. So taking ownership absolutely is paramount. So let's talk a little bit about this, Carter. Is why do we want to teach our team how to turn it around?
Well, not everybody on your team has the same authority or power to be able to solve problems, right? The girl who answers the phone, the CSR, the person in accounting, the owner of the business, the technician, the salesperson, all of these are different roles, and all of them are empowered to one degree or another to be able to solve this problem. But none of them, except for maybe the owner, has unilateral power to be able to do that. But each one of those people might be someone that your customer is going to talk to in search of a resolution. They get a bill and now they're finally ticked off enough to finally complain about the thing that's been bugging them for 2 weeks. And so they get on the horn with the accounting department that just sent them the bill and give them an earful, right? So the person in accounting needs to have some conflict resolution skills to be able to know, or at least a process, what do we do when we get this call? Right? What is the process we deal with here? And taking ownership of that and not just simply saying, that's not my problem, or giving them another phone number and saying, well, you need to call so-and-so. No, take ownership of it and say, you know what? I understand that this is frustrating to you, and I'm going to make sure that you get to the right person and have that person call you. Can I have your information? And I'm going to take responsibility for making sure that this goes to the right person. So everybody on your team needs to know what their role is when there's a pissed off customer and what it is that they can do, who they need to talk to, coordinate with, and come to solutions with, or bring ideas up with about how this can be solved, so that everybody is playing from the same page. The customer knows that anybody I'm talking to there is interested in my best interest, is still, even though there's been a mistake or an issue that I'm not happy with, it seems that everybody I'm talking to is making sure that they're going to come to some kind of resolution that will satisfy me, and moving through that. So it's very important to make sure that everybody has that training and some of these tools. It's not a waste of time to send your accountant or your bookkeeper to some empathy training, or give them a book and say, here's how we do it here, right? So make sure that everybody is included in that. Not only will it help them in their life, just like general life skills and relationship skills, but it's going to give them a foundation for making sure that they are doing it the way we do it here, right? That's important, because customers can tell when they're getting passed around. And all that does, do you think that lowers their stress or their anxiety or their frustration? No, it escalates it, right? Nobody likes to be passed around. So everybody needs to be playing from the same hymnal.
So along with that, I'm going to say two things. If your company has an SOP or rules around de-escalation, could you just put a thumbs up and, or just say yes in the comments? Because we don't think about that as SOPs a lot of times. We think about all the operations and working around equipment and, all those things of having really good SOPs, but we don't think about having an SOP that teaches everybody that if they've got a disgruntled customer, what they need to do. And it may be per, like Carter said, per position. The tech out in the field may you want them to do something different than a CSR, than the accounting, than sales. And so you really need to know that. The other thing to pay attention to is if you keep getting missed expectations from a technician or a salesperson or a CSR, what that means is somewhere along the line, somebody is setting an expectation and there's somebody not meeting it. So you're not correlating the expectation you want your company to set with the expectation that you're actually delivering, which to me means you need more training. You need additional training. Whether that's telling the CSR, hey, you're not going to leave a gold-plated, pin when you leave, whatever that expectation would be, along with anything else that you do. So again, I'm going to say this because what I find is almost every situation where we've had an issue, it's been we set an expectation, we either have not met the expectation, that's called the problem, we've met the expectation or exceeded it. The only time you have a disgruntled customer is when you do not meet the expectation, but you have to understand you're the one that set the expectation. So when that happens, you have to resolve that. And it could very well be the expectation is this was supposed to get fixed and then something happened that didn't get fixed. You resolve the issue. So, I'm not saying that every expectation is going to get met every time because stuff happens. I mean, it just does. But again, think about that. Think about how you can look at what you are telling your customers to expect and what you're actually delivering. I think that makes a kind of round that out a little bit. Guys, if you have enjoyed this content, if you will give us a like, we sure do appreciate it. We know that Facebook looks at those and appreciates those as well. Next week, we are going to talk about reaching target audiences with Facebook ads. So that'll be all really fun. We're going to talk about Facebook ads. We probably are going to get into maybe some hiring ads with that as well. How to use Facebook to hire. I know everybody is talking about that right now, so that is really, really important. And we are going to do this for one more week. If you have not gotten your free playbook, I'm going to put it for one more week. I'm going to do it for free. And after that, we'll have something up that we'll give away or do, but it's not going to be the playbook. So just know you got one more week. I think that's the 15th, if I remember correctly, somewhere around there, 17th. What is that, Carter? Can you look at the calendar real quick?
Next one is the 17th, yeah. Yeah,
17th. So if you haven't done that, please go to sparkmarketer.com/playbook and sign up there, and we will get you taken care of. So guys, thank you so much. I appreciate your patience, and I'm just going to tell you, I appreciate that the guys that were working here gave me 30 minutes because they've actually stopped making the most awful racket possible. So thanks again. Guys, we love all of you. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week, and we will see you later.
Bye, everyone.